Well, Sam, we're past officially the dog days of summer. But given the subject matter of the show that we had laid out today, the end of the regular season, the finish of a disappointing season for the Reds, changing the manager. I mean, it all felt a little bit heavy, right? I
Yeah,
mean, we have some fun on the show. It's light. We yuck it up a little bit, but it felt a little bit heavy. So I thought we needed to at least start the show,
yeah.
with something to give us a little bit of a better vibe. The good vibes only. Bring those back.
Good vibes only. Well, we only have to talk about it for 4 more days. I guess that's the good vibes that I got. So
That's a good vibe.
There's your silver lining. We don't have to. It might be heavy, but we don't have to wear it too long.
That's right. But I brought a friend. Shoots, come here. So I thought this would be a good time to bring in over here.
Bringing our best guest of the year.
This would be the Giesenschlag family dog, aka the best dog ever.
Shooter.
That's Shooter. What's up, Shoots? Hey, buddy. And so I figured what we would do here, at least just to start, just to set the tone,
Ask him
would be here is the official emotional support animal of Dead Red Cincinnati. Okay. So if things get a little too heavy, if we get a little bit too deep into the negativity, we got Shoots here for us.
Pull Shoots in.
Yeah, as our emotional support animal for the show. So
you should have been doing this all year long. Our ratings would have been much better. People look. I mean, every woman in Cincinnati would have looked up at the TV and said, "Oh, they got a dog on there. We should watch that."
We should watch that.
Unbelievable. So, you've been holding that ace up your sleeve a little too long.
You got to try. So the 9.5-year-old, slightly gray chocolate lab that I spend most of my days with is going to hang with us here on the show today. So
good.
He'll be right there. And then we can continue with our normal setup as soon as I can get this fixed again.
Now, normal setup has changed its locale today as Giesenschlag is now on the floor, and LeCure sitting up for back support.
I took your cue. So yeah, from the floor for the final regular season show of the season. Thought I'd get those in. But if you get down, I mean, if you start feeling it a little bit, just
hit the dog whistle.
Yeah, we'll bring in the dog.
All
right, let's do this in the leadoff spot today. Reds president of baseball operations, Nick Krall, said, "I thought we should have been better." He said, "We all share some of the blame." But on Sunday night after he said those things, David Bell paid the price, and David Bell lost his job. You asked me this last night of the show, so I'll ask you this today to start. Surprised or no at the change the Reds made?
No, I guess, before I go into some long tangent. No, I'm not surprised. Do I agree? Also, no, to some degree. And that's not going to be, it's not as black or white. I saw somebody talking about MVP voting, and it's like, well, how close is MVP voting? You vote for Aaron Judge and then Bobby Witt Jr. It doesn't say by how much more Aaron Judge is the MVP than Bobby Witt Jr. It's just that he's more the MVP than Bobby Witt. So I agree to the point of, I was maybe 70-30. 70, they should keep him. 30, they should make a change. So I guess there was a little bit, not a ton of surprise for me that they got rid of him, but I think I wish that I would have liked to see him have to honor his contract. I wish people just give out these contracts. Somebody honor it, like quit opting out after the second.
They're being honored.
4-year deal.
He'll still get paid, so they're honoring in that way.
He's going to get paid, but for the Reds, you made a commitment to David. He made a commitment to you. It's a two-way street. Like, quit signing somewhere and opting out. This portal in college, have some, loyalty to what you're saying you're going to do. I'm going to go to the University of Texas. Go to the fucking University of Texas, or I'm going to Baylor. Like, stay your time. Quit offering me this and then bailing out of it after, a couple bad months, because that's what it's been. A couple bad months. It's not been a bad 6 years. It's been a couple bad months. And that pisses me off, I guess, if you didn't notice.
That's all right.
I guess I'm not surprised. I told you there was a tangent coming.
What about the tangent we were trying to avoid? When something like this happens, or during the season, I try to get a feel, because I realize most of us, the vast majority of us, are on the outside. So I try to get a feel. I ask guys, hey, what is this person like? What is this player like? What is this manager like? Or give me the context of what have you responded to before, or what did you like about someone else? And so I feel like I try to be careful to not think that I know. So that's why I come to somebody like you, because you've been on that side, you've been in the clubhouse, you've experienced this when Dusty was fired, when you were here, the manager that brought you to the big leagues and set you up for the success that you had. Take me back to that. When that happened, how do you feel within the clubhouse as a player when you know something like that happens?
Well, that was after the 2013 season when, we had playoffed in 10, 12, and then 13 in the wild card game and in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And they fired him after that season. And so, I mean, I'm gonna believe it or not, Sam's gonna try to tread lightly here, because that was a time where
When's the last time you treaded lightly on anything?
yeah, well, exactly. So we're bringing out all the stops on the last
Proceed.
So there was the sting of losing that game, which was like brought up the old wound of the 2012, losing that. It was like kind of, back in the playoffs, we're not the number one seed or whatever it is, but we got to crack at it. There were things that happened during that time that, kind of leading into that 2013 game and, then thereafter, that I had a bad taste in my mouth. And when they fired Dusty, some of that bad taste came out. And I look back on that as something that I regret. It was something that affected Dusty and I's relationship that we've since mended, because he's a graceful man,
Yeah.
And so there's this thing of it, in the same words that we're using and hearing now of, well, you can't fire the whole team and should have been better, and all that's flowing around after, and we're talking about one of the best managers to ever manage in this game.
Right.
And David Bell in the same breath. It's not, maybe black or white is not exactly what to say, but it's not, in that situation. Like, it's not like it can happen to anybody at any time. And what's the common denominator is the collection of 25 players they're trying to get to this one place. Right. And so I think your next question may have been something like, what are characteristics that I'm looking for in that manager that I respond to? And, it's more probably the David Bell that you see jumping down the manager's throat than the subdued one we see in post-game interviews. I responded more to a brick in the head than a pat on the butt.
Right.
Dusty had a presence about him. Right. Augie Garrido, my college coach, had a presence about him.
But Google Augie Garrido.
He's got
the things that come up. You'll get a good idea of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
The brick in the head.
Yeah, it is. But it's also, they did such a great job of making it personal, to the point of, this is how baseball translates to your life and life translates to baseball. So you could have other examples of how to get this done that wasn't just an X's and O's of baseball. It was a mentality state that they were always, and I'll talk about those two guys because they were the most prominent figures in my career, and had, going to choosing the college that I went to and then major league manager. I mean, it doesn't get any bigger than that. And those two, it's hard to find bigger names in their sport of what they did, but it was all about the mental state of trying to attack this stuff, and not the physicality. It wasn't, physical errors were mental errors. It was always something that was going on between the ears, never anything that was going on with your hands. Physical errors are going to happen. Not if you're clean, not if you're like have the clarity in your mind kind of thing. I mean, yes, still physical errors are going to happen, but that wasn't just accepted as a physical error. That was a mental error of not putting yourself in a position mentally to be able to make the play physically, because that physically you're a world-class athlete and you have the ability to do it if your mind is clear. So those were some of the characteristics that those guys had that. And again, another thing that people on this last regular season show aren't going to believe, like, I was pretty clear between the ears. So screw you. No matter what you may think, you can't judge a book by its cover. But no, so those are some of the things. So I definitely feel for David. I don't even know if I'm happy for Freddie, because that situation sucks. I wish it was a different situation for him to walk into, but for David, I know he's got a ton of experience, and you and I are in the same boat as far as we're not down there. Well, we don't know. We're not seeing the behind closed door stuff, which is where all this happens, which is where the communication happens between player and coach, which is where, all the things they're going through on a daily basis. How meticulous are they? How over meticulous are they? Different things like that. Yeah. So it's unfortunate all the way around, because as the player, David takes responsibility, and I think he's obviously disappointed that and feels responsible. The players are disappointed and feel responsible, so everybody feels the sense of responsibility, which they should. But that is the brick in the head that I don't know. The wake up call aspect of it, to get it then, like, oh man, like maybe we weren't on the ball like we thought we were. And so you really, with 4 games left now, or however many it is, have to reflect on who you are as a player, person, teammate, all those things. And it's a lot to process, and it's tough to process.
I would say this, in my experience as a non-professional athlete, but my time with coaches that I had, my time around coaches as doing what I do.
Yeah.
There are different flavors and different types, and the good ones know which buttons to push with different players. But as a general rule, I think athletes want to be pushed and challenged, and I think they want more of that side, more of that done more aggressively. And then you get the occasional pat on the back if that's what that guy needs. And this is not saying anything, because like we said, I don't know how David was behind the scenes, but I'm just saying as a general rule.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's a great, soon to be Hall of Fame hockey coach, John Tortorella, who coached in Columbus for a long time. Not a long time. He reset the culture in Columbus and then was gone. But the number of former players who talked about how much they hated Torts when they played for him.
Oh.
But then after the fact said, but he was the best thing for me. He made me a much better player and a much better person. I think I would fall on that side of the conversation, or that side of the argument, as being what I would prefer to see or have if I happen to be in that situation. So that's just my thought on that. Nick Kroll,
agree with that for sure.
Yeah. And when he's talking about Nick Kroll, when he was talking about things, obviously from the front office, you're not going to get specifics. You're not going to get details. But I jotted down a lot of the things that he said during the news conference after he announced or answered questions about firing David Bell. And some of the things that came out without specifics or context: undisciplined, inconsistent, philosophical differences. Okay. So you've heard those words. And I'm sure that things aren't limited to that. And some of those things are kind of deep. But as you watch this team play 125 games, or however many you saw firsthand, things have to stand out to you as, here's something that could have made a difference for this team. It's not the only thing, but here's something that could have made a difference for this team. What would have made a difference for this team?
I would say the quality of at bat in innings that they had created action.
Mm-hmm.
Leadoff guy at second base, second and third, nobody out, second and third, 1 out. Those situations where you have to get something, and the number of times they got nothing.
Yeah.
And people are going to talk about base running and outs lost on base paths, and I don't know who's ranking this thing. When you have a runner on on third base with exactly one out, you go every time. A contact play, you go every time. With 0 outs, see the ball through the infield. With 1 out, go. With 2 outs, who gives a shit? The inning's over. You're running anyway. So the outs lost at the base pass was not a base running situation. It was a lack of a quality at bat to get the ball in the air, to hit a sac fly, to hit a ball the opposite way through the infield. Like those things, those situations stuck out to me, is having an opportunity to have an inning and get 1, 2, maybe more runs, depending on how you handle it, and getting nothing. And what a air out of the balloon that is for a team. When you're having trouble scoring runs, and then you have the opportunity to do it, and you can't do it because you don't know how, or I don't know, they do know how. I've seen them do it. Yeah. But, it couldn't always be the wrong guy coming up to the plate. I mean, no, you can't have Spencer Steer coming up to the plate every time, but there's somebody over there who can handle the bat. I know it. They're in the big leagues. That I guess stuck out more to me. Yeah, there was a lot of defensive stuff, but your best defensive player has your most errors. Your best base runner's been thrown out on the bases more than anybody. Elly De La Cruz. You gonna fire him? Nope.
No, you're not.
Do you want to take away his aggressiveness? Nope.
No, you're not going to fire him, but that takes us to the next thing is, how long might you have him?
Well.
And this is the reality. So Nick Krall said this. He said, we're always going to be a small market team. That's not going to change, meaning we have to draft and develop well. We're never going to go out and spend $300 million on someone once they've established themselves somewhere else.
Okay, yeah.
You know where I'm going.
I do.
So Krall was asked about the window to win with the current core players that are in Cincinnati. And he said, I don't like to talk about a window because we want to get to sustainability. And I get it. Everybody does.
A sliding glass. They want a sliding glass patio door, not a window.
Exactly. But sustainability has to be the goal. And you get it. You want to draft and develop and keep, there's always the next good crop coming up. There's always the next good young player coming up. That's the way to go. And I believe in that. And I believe that the plan that they put into motion a few years ago, when they stripped it down, traded the stars that they had for prospects and picks, I think that's the right way to go. And I think it's already shown to be something that they can do well if you make the right decisions.
Yes. Decisions.
Right. Make the right decisions. And this is another decision that we're talking about. But without question, you're not going to keep everyone for as long as you would like to keep everyone together. And so for this core and the other good pieces that they have, it's the reality of sports in the professional ranks, is you've got a limited amount of time likely with that group. So right now, you want to maximize the time that you have these core pieces. And that has to be a factor in your thinking. But to your point, do you dance with the girl that brung you, as they say, and ride out someone like David Bell, who's had his hands on these young players from the time that they got here? Or do you, as you said last night, rattle the cage and do something different? I think that's one of the questions, obviously, that you answer, because you got right now, you got a generational player.
Yep.
You got a generational player, and it's not going to be one player, but you've got your hands on and access to a generational player in a small market like Cincinnati. You want to make that work.
Yes. So are you asking me, how long do you try to sign Elly De La Cruz to a long-term contract right now? Or do I think that this is a proper move based on him being here to change voice?
I that's the second part of that more than the first.
Okay. Do I think he needs a new voice?
In that it has to be a factor
in their decision-making process.
I think it goes beyond what they saw this year or how they feel about next year. It's we need to find the right makeup and the right mix for this group while we have certain players here. And it's not just De La Cruz. I get it, but he's different.
But I think I would say almost to the opposite of that.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Now, yeah. Okay, good. Because I'm not disagreeing with you because I understand what you're saying. Elly made huge strides this year. Yeah?
Yeah.
Under David Bell.
Right.
He may take a step back. I don't think he will. Your superstars are going to be a superstar. I mean, we saw it with Mike Trout when he came up. He was horrible in his first taste of the big leagues. They came back the next year and went off. You know, probably would have won the MVP if Miguel Cabrera didn't have a triple crown type of thing. Elly was, I mean, not horrible last year by any means. Did some absolutely exciting things. And then this year he comes in up all-star. Who's the voice that needs to talk to the group around the superstar? The people who supplement your superstar. That is more the question that I'm asking in my head, because one, you said it's not just Elly, it's the group,
right?
Which is absolutely true. But when I'm thinking about it, I never even considered the fact that of Elly, just because that's one of the collective,
right? And my point wasn't that you have to get the right voice for De La Cruz. My point was you have to get the right voice for the rest of the team while you have a De La Cruz.
Then that's why I said hold on and don't think I'm disagreeing with you just yet. But no, I agree with you. You need to find to make sure everybody else grabs onto the cape, as Michael Jordan would have said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So no, I maybe in some ways I do agree with that, because Elly continued and other people had moments, you know, and whatnot. And I mean, I get tired of going into the, what's it called? You know, the injury front, but it's a part of it that you have to consider. They're going to finish the season without any of their starting pitchers in the starting rotation, you know, and without having gotten a game from Matt McClain and having gotten half a season from Noelvi Marte, who shouldn't have been just given the job anyway, but they gave it to him. And Encarnacion, you know, the 3/4 that are infield wasn't supposed to be playing.
Right.
So there's that.
All right. We'll move on from that, because the next news is going to be who they hire. We don't know. We're not going to get into that today, but the next news that we discuss will be what the hire is and how it looks moving forward.
Yeah. We got to hurry this up. I got to fill out my resume.
Of course.
I got I got a voice. I don't know who wants to hear it, but they're going to hear it anyway.
Five and dive. Here we go. Just a little bit of a theme, but a little bit of randomness to it, as always. We'll start with this. Bigger surprise, the Astros or the Mariners? The Astros at one point were 10 games back. They just won the American League West, and the Mariners, with that pitching staff, faltered. Bigger surprise.
I'd say the Mariners, because it doesn't surprise me that the Astros are, you know, playing good baseball. They've been a good baseball team for a long time. The Mariners, with that pitching staff, that's crazy. Yeah, the Mariners.
Yeah. But man, the Astros, well, they looked dark early in the season.
Yeah,
what
the end of a dynasty, and then here we are.
Bigger surprise, Ohtani or Judge?
Ohtani.
Why?
Because we've seen Judge do this before. We've not seen anybody. I mean, how can you
anybody? All right. Bigger surprise, Guardians under first-year manager Stephen Vogt doing what they did, or the Reds doing what they did?
This I don't even know what the next two are going to be, but this is going to have to be the toughest one. I'll say the Guardians. I'll say I'm more surprised by the Guardians doing what they're doing, and all encompassing first year.
Because you've been on the record as saying you expected some regression from some of the Reds.
I did. But just I mean, even if the Guardians would have went, you know, 500 this year, that would have what they've done. I mean, holy crap, man, that's been outstanding. So good. I mean, look, good for them.
They're not both rookies, but I did kind of like just the thought of this concept. Bigger surprise, Paul Skeens or Bobby Witt Jr.?
Okay, maybe I was wrong. This one's pretty tough too. And by the way, this is the second time you've asked me about these two players specifically.
I know. I like it.
Okay. Bigger surprise. Jeez. I guess I have to be surprised with Paul Skeens.
He's never done it. Never been here.
Never been to he was drafted. He was starting the All-Star game within a year of being drafted.
Right.
I mean, that's,
think about that.
That's crazy. So
and there hasn't been,
and just the fact that he's continued to, I mean,
right.
He got to the big leagues. You can dominate for a week like Reese Hines did because nobody's ever seen you. He's done it for 20 plus starts now.
Right. There's been
if he had 5 more starts, he'd probably win the Cy Young.
There's been no drop off. You're right. There was no burst onto the scene and then fade.
Yeah.
And that's been impressive, but I'm still looking back on Witt Jr. and his season and amazed. Last question is not really a surprise, but I was thinking about when I was looking at the standings, and I'm thinking about we're heading into the end of September, into October baseball, and I'm thinking about playoff atmospheres. And you've got the usual, Yankee Stadium is going to be what it is, Dodger Stadium.
Philly.
But I was going to give you that one. Thinking about playoff atmospheres and the intensity, and this might surprise you. So I'm going to Philly. You put Philly out there because it's always just, it's Philly. It's Philly. It's gritty and it's intense. But every time I watch the level of excitement and the volume of something in San Diego, I go, those folks, they bring it. They bring it in the regular season.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about the Padres in the playoffs, and I'm thinking that's going to be a pretty crazy place to play. What do you like better? From a fan, if you're sitting in the stands.
If I'm sitting in the stands, I'm guessing, depend on how, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even sure how to put this because I got people in both places, and if they happen to listen to this, I don't want to get in anybody's hot seat. But I mean, Philly, if you hate the other team,
right? You hate them.
You hate them. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter if your favorite players on the other team. You hate them. Right. In San Diego, I feel like you love baseball. Kind of thing.
That's a great point.
And not that I would ever consider San Diego to be some kind of a great baseball town, but they're changing my mind because when San Diego started to invest money in that team, boy, they showed up and they showed up in droves and they've stayed.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's a beautiful place to watch a ball game, and, you're not going to have to worry about too much grit when you're going down to the ballpark in San Diego. But I'd say from a surprise standpoint, I'm surprised about a lot of the things with San Diego than I am with Philly. I'm surprised baseball exploded there. I'm not surprised they're a good team because they've got a bunch of superstars on it. They've been crazy with how they've handled it. But that said, Philly would definitely be the tougher place to play.
That's a quality level distinction. I like that.
Yeah.
Finish it up because we're headed to the off season in Cincinnati. We are. And I talked to you about this a lot, when the season ends, unless you're in the Champaign for the final game of the year, it sucks. But it's also the end of, being up here every day for 8 months, we're having to redline every day. What's that like for you to walk out of the clubhouse, pack your bags, go home for the off season, and then what brings you back to thinking about opening day?
Ooh, okay. There's a couple little parts I'll try to be decent with. It's sad because, like you said, the first thought is that you've been with these guys for 8 months every day. It's what you've always wanted to do was play in the major leagues, and you fell short of your goal. Whatever it was, I bet you fell short of it. You know what I mean? No matter what team you are, unless you're the very last one, you fell short of it. Nobody ever says, I want to get to the World Series. Nobody ever says, I want to, they do. That's step one, but the ultimate goal, only one team gets to do it. So there's the disappointment in that. And depending on the extenuating circumstances of your team, feel like you got a manager fired, that can weigh heavy on you. And so the part of that, the disappointment will also bleed into, I needed a break. This is tough. This is not easy to go through this for this long a time and to redline every day. I need to cool my jets for a little bit,
Yeah.
And then I'd say, I mean, it'll be like this for me. It was like this my whole playing career. It's like this for me in this, the pre and post game shows. After a couple weeks, I usually took a good October bender regardless. And then, so after that, it's like, damn, playing ball, it's like workout started at the beginning of November. And that's still kind of how it happens for me now. Like it's actually the bender's even shorter now that I don't have, which is stupid. But then it's like, man, I need something to do now. And for baseball, when I was playing, it was like the last putt, like the last good golf shot you hit after a horseshit round, and the one that keeps you coming back.
One that makes you come back.
The one that makes you come back. I mean, and that was maybe that's not a great analogy because I was going to come back because I love baseball and everybody that plays this game does. But that's, you have your built-in, you love your family and the family time that you get to spend in the off season without a doubt. But that clubhouse, man, it just has like this tractor beam because that's where you are. That is home because you've been all your life in one more than you've been at another home because you lived here and then you played your baseball season and then you lived somewhere else. And then you lived here and you played the baseball season. Only after quite a while do you actually have one place that you call home where every offseason you go there.
Mm-hmm.
So home is where the heart is, and it's at the clubhouse.
There's a lot of heart in the clubhouse.
There's a lot of heart in the
clubhouse. Good clubhouses.
And good clubhouses for sure.
I like that. All right, man. It's been good. Regular
season, here. I think regular season's been good. This show's been fun. I think it sounds like we're gonna try to do some postseason stuff.
Yeah.
Schedule
and for Sam's people in Philly or San Diego, if you didn't like what he said, please don't unsubscribe.
Yeah, and I actually for the people in San Diego, I'd give them my address. They'd probably send me like, that's okay. The people in Philly would show up and riot on my lawn, which both would be interesting. So
exactly.
Yeah, try to find us. So we have they put this on YouTube. You can go and you can watch the episodes on YouTube. I've always personally felt like if you get a chance to watch it, physical mannerisms are key. You'll get to take a look at Shooter. I'll probably give him one more look here while I'm saying all this stupid stuff. Oh, he found a squirrel. Where's Eddie at? He usually eats these damn things. So yeah, go hit the like button, try to subscribe to us. Give it a listen. We have a good time. And then maybe here during the baseballs, once baseball season's over and there he is. There's our mascot. The baseball season's over and you're missing us and you're missing the Reds. You can go back and kind of watch all the episodes that you just missed, for whatever reason. So thanks for tuning in.